Cobotics means collaborative robotics, where human beings and robot work together.
We work on technologies of the future. We look at ways in which these technologies will actually get deployed.
We are trying to build an ecosystem here. When we talk about ecosystem, it starts from the kind of research capabilities that we are able to build. How is that we are able to instill the sense of commercialization in all those activities? When we talk about research, it's not only papers or publications.
So we have chosen four major thrust areas, you may call it. One is called the medical robotics. The second is the defense robotics. Third is the agriculture robotics. And fourth is the industry 4.0 or industry 5.0.
Mission of IHFC and the mission of IIT Delhi, there's a lot of synergy. And so we are treating IHFC as an extension of the things that we anyway want to do. The first goal of success would be creating an impact in society through some value add in terms of technologies and ideas.
I would definitely want IHFC to make an impact, an impact wherein we see indigenous products being developed, wherein we see our ecosystem coming together to see that we as an entity, we as a country, we as an ecosystem are able to build products on our own. So we should have export-oriented products being developed with whatever research capabilities we have, and that is what we want to do as a part of IHFC.
Yeah, we can play about Cobotalks.
Welcome to Cobotalks, where we shape the future of human-robot collaboration. Cobotalks is a monthly seminar series held on the second Wednesday of each month, bringing together leading researchers, innovators, and professionals to exchange insights and advancements in the field of collaborative robotics. Since its inception, Cobotalks has featured 50-plus experts, showcasing how intelligent robots enhance human capabilities, productivity, and key sectors like healthcare, agriculture, defense, and industry. This initiative is brought to you by IHFC, the Technology Innovation Hub of IIT Delhi, the Center of Excellence, in collaboration with BIRD, and the Cognitive Science Program at IIT Delhi's Department of Humanities and Social Sciences. The iHub Foundation for Cobotics, IHFC, the Technology Innovation Hub of IIT Delhi, established under the National Mission on Interdisciplinary Cyber-Physical Systems, NMICPS, by the Department of Science and Technology, DST, Government of India. It was launched in June 2020. IHFC operates across 4 key verticals: research and development, education and training, startups and entrepreneurship, and international collaboration, fostering technology commercialization and building global partnerships with academia, industry, and government. In application, IHFC works in advancing collaborative robotics in medical and healthcare, agriculture, industry, and defense, leading initiatives like drone swarming and medical cobotics to enhance human-robot collaboration for real-world impact. IHFC has partnered with 10 institutes nationwide to establish co-innovation centers, empowering students and entrepreneurs in robotics, AI, ML, and IoT to develop innovative solutions and high-impact startups. Aligned with the vision of our Honorable Prime Minister, Shri Narendra Modi, for a Viksit Bharat and Atmanirbhar Bharat, these centers foster deep tech R&D, skill development, and creative problem-solving, equipping India's youth to drive technological advancements and compete globally. IHFC's mission is to create a world-class ecosystem for innovation, bridging research and practical applications to enhance human-robot collaboration for societal benefit. BIRD, IIT Delhi's Center of Excellence in Biologically Inspired Robots and Drones is a leading hub for interdisciplinary robotics research. Founded through the Program for Autonomous Robotics, in 2010, it develops intelligent, sustainable robotic systems and has been instrumental in establishing the Robotics Society of India and the Interdisciplinary Specialization in Robotics, IDSR. BIRD consists of 27 members and has produced more than 150 publications over its 10 years of operation, working on 10+ industrial and academic projects. The Cognitive Science program at IIT Delhi offers an interdisciplinary approach to studying the human mind, integrating diverse theories and methods. It prepares students for careers in academia, industry, research, brain sciences, and human-machine interaction. Leading the way in human-robot collaboration space. Join us for an exciting interaction session, second Wednesday of every month. Cobotalk.
Thank you, Ashish. Thank you for that. A very warm welcome to everyone. A very good evening to everyone, and especially to Anju ma'am, who we honored to have today with us as a special speaker on this 50th edition of Cobotalks. Thank you, ma'am, for agreeing to speak on this wonderful occasion. A little bit about Anju ma'am. She is the president and co-founder of IvyCamp, and that's a global IIT and IIM alumni-based startup engagement initiative of IvyCamp Ventures. And they actually look into early stage venture capital firm. Their vision was to find and enable research, innovation, and entrepreneurs with the potential to disrupt the status quo and scale them into a profitable business. Anju ma'am has got a BTech from IIT Delhi and a MS and PhD from Stanford University, with experience spanning over 15 years in product management and marketing in the financial risk industry in the USA. She has worked in many fields and in fact is a specialist in disaster risk management and also has looked into catastrophic events such as earthquakes. She has worked very closely with organizations all over the world, including Federal Emergency Management Agency and the Office of Emergency Services. She has actually led many leading insurance companies and risk management into the commercial sector. In the startup ecosystem, I'm very happy to say that she has over 8+ years of experience, and it's a passion, pure passion about willingness and passion to work with young entrepreneurs like many of us that have joined today, and driving IvyCamp Ventures efforts to support and build a next generation of entrepreneurs through India's institutes and incubator ecosystem. Anju ma'am is also a part of the IHFC ecosystem and has been mentoring many of our young startups. Anju ma'am, I would also like Professor Saha, who's joined here, Project Director of IHFC, who's joined here today, to just have a warm welcome and thank you for coming on board today. Professor Saha, over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Priya, and thanks, Anju, for spending time with us. And for the viewers, she is also in our board of directors, one of the directors in our board. And we would look forward to your guidance to these lectures. This time, I have personally, encouraged many of the startups to join this, knowing that you are part of the VC. So, thank you very much again, and we are all waiting to listen to you.
Thank you so much for having me. I mean, it's an honor and a pleasure to be here, Professor Saha.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. So actually today we will also inaugurate, what we just saw was the latest Cobotalks video that we are playing for the first time on this 50th edition. And we'll also be launching our Cobo Digest, which is going to get officially launched today. As a matter of fact, the IIT ecosystem is going to be seeing the Cobo Digest. It's uploaded on our website. It's going to be launched today. It's been sent out via email to a lot of our partners, collaborators, and the ecosystem. So, team, can we have a first look of the Cobotalks Cobo Digest first page, if you have that ready with you? Ashish, do you have that ready?
I currently don't have. I think Udayan has that.
Oh,
Or
Udayan.
Shubham.
Okay. So then are you going to be showing that, or will be? Oh, actually, Sahar sir, why don't you actually show it? Should I get a? It was over here. Somebody's taken it from here. Okay, just 1 second. I'll just get that.
We can show the hard copy directly.
Yes, I'll show the hard copy directly.
Yeah. So for the benefit of the viewers and Anju also, so every month, whenever we have these Cobotalks, we capture the title and the summary. And for last 4 years, once we have completed the 50th one, and so we put it in a compendium form. So would like you to, can you see it? Oh, it's very small actually. I can go close. Right. So I can go close
Oh,
here.
nice. Yeah.
So
Nice.
there are people here all around the world.
Soft copy here, but I
So
think
I
them. I don't know what I'm
request
showing.
you to formally say, this book is launched. And you can say,
Congratulations.
I launched this Cobotics after the 50th sessions are over.
Congratulations. Congratulations to the team.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. So now,
Thank you so much. Thank you, Professor Sahar. Thank you, Anju ma'am. If the team manages to get the soft copy uploaded and show, maybe at the end we will be able
there
to.
it
Oh,
is.
there. They have finally found it from there. Good, good, good. Thank you so much. So this is what the 50th edition is all about, and I think sir has already explained. So, ma'am, you can actually say a few words what you feel about this whole thing being launched today.
Sure. I mean, first again, I mean, it's an honor to be here at the launch and also at the 50th Cobotalks. I think this is a great compilation, especially since it's across all the speakers, across all the Cobotalks. And I think the insights presented here will be a great learning, not only to the members of IHSC, but I think the whole, startup community, research community. So it's great to see something like that. And I congratulate the whole IHSC team for putting this together and getting it out. So looking forward to actually seeing it myself.
sure.
Yes, ma'am. It's uploaded on our website, and it will also be reaching you via your email. And to all the
Great.
people also who have been a part of our IIT ecosystem and Cobotalks ecosystem, they will be receiving the same. So,
Great.
and with that, ma'am, I hand over the platform to you. So, can we please give the rights of presentation to ma'am, please?
Let me just share. I hope.
Yes, ma'am. It's visible. It's visible,
Yeah.
ma'am.
Let me
You
just
can
put
make
it
it
in
full screen.
present. Yeah. Hopefully everybody can see this.
Yes, ma'am.
Can you hear me all right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So again, it's a great honor and pleasure to be here, especially at the 50th Cobotalks. Welcome to everybody. I will set a little bit of context. Most of the Cobotalks that I've seen in the past are very technical oriented. So I will say that you're not going to see a lot of technical talk in my presentation today. And I do want to make sure that this is conversational. Otherwise, I anyway do get bored of hearing my own voice, and I'm pretty sure people will if I keep continuing for long. So I would encourage people that if you have any questions, please feel free to put it in the chat, and hopefully the IHFC team can stop me, and happy to address that. Um, so, like Ashutosh mentioned, a big core element of IHFC is not only to encourage research and innovation, but to take it to the next level of commercialization. Because I think in India, we're at a very interesting point of, deep tech and commercializing deep tech. So I think this is a very timely discussion to have. My talk is going to focus on, investment readiness for founders. And I say founders here loosely. I'm also looking at the researchers, the innovators who are looking to take their innovation to the next level. Just a little bit of background, Pia had given a little bit of background about IvyCamp and IvyCamp Ventures. And I want to re-emphasize that the IITs and IIMs have had a tremendous impact globally on the startup ecosystem. As you all are probably aware, India is currently ranked third in the startup ecosystem. And by 2030, we're working to take it to number two. The number of founded startups, the number of unicorns, the number of Fortune 500 companies where an IIT IIM alumnus is on board. I won't go through all the numbers, but it is quite breathtaking. And also, if you look at the IIT IIM ecosystem, the IIT alumni itself is now crossing 500,000 alumni across the globe, which is, something tremendous to be proud of, and also something that we really need to leverage. And I'm going to be talking about that in a little bit. Today, I mentioned my talk is all about investment readiness. And before I dig into this, I want to qualify two things. I want to qualify there's a difference between what people call is investor readiness and what is known as investment readiness. A lot of founders tend to talk about investor readiness, which is, are you ready to pitch to an investor to get investment? So, do you have the ability to attract investment? But I would say that is only one part of it. And what founders really need to look at, do they have investment readiness? And what I mean by that is, are they prepared to effectively use the funding that they are going to get? Just in terms of, pure numbers, once a startup gets seed level funding, 60 to 70 startups will fail post that. And startups that receive Series A funding, 30 to 35% of your startups fail post that. And one of the key drivers of that is the inability of the founders to effectively use the investment. So again, I want you to keep that in mind, that yes, investor readiness is important, but even more important for a founder is investment readiness. And there are a few elements I want to point out at this point, and I'll get into more details. So a founder always needs to think about, is this the right time for them to get investment? Do they have the necessary elements in place that an investor would evaluate before deciding to invest? And internally, do they have a plan ready to deploy that investment? And it's really important for a founder to not just look at an investor as somebody providing funds, but to look at an investor who can be their partner in their whole journey to the next level. The other thing I want to point out that it's really important that the whole funding community is really small and everybody knows everybody else. So an impression that you make on an investor along your journey is very soon going to trickle down to the whole investment community. So very important to keep that element in mind. I want to talk a little bit about deep tech, and what it means to me. We throw around this term a lot. To me, deep tech is all about driven by scientific discoveries and engineering breakthroughs. And it's all about turning theoretical concepts and research into practical, real world applications where you are solving a real problem for the industry, for the customer. The challenge in this is there is a lot of uncertainty in your research and development processes, but still, it's all about leveraging technologies to build a competitive advantage, to build IP, and convert it into a business. A unique element about deep tech is it needs significant capital investment, which is why it has taken so long and continues to take so long for VC funds to invest. People talked about a number of areas where, deep tech is considered. It's, artificial intelligence, machine learning, it's drones, it's biotechnology, it's material science, it's space tech, it's quantum computing, it's nanotechnology. So a very broad remit. And one of the really exciting things about it that there now are deep drivers pushing deep tech investments in India. It's government initiatives, and I'll talk about them. It's changes in the deep tech startup policy. I mentioned that now there are early stage deep tech focused venture capital funds that are just looking to come in early into deep tech investments. And India's whole perspective on building a foundation in STEM, building our talent, because ultimately research is driven by the talent that is coming out of our academia. And there's a tremendous push, even from the IITs, to push women into STEM. So a lot of work happening at the grassroots level to create our technology, to create the talent that goes into R&D, that goes into building innovation, that will eventually convert into business. Very interesting numbers about the deep tech startup ecosystem in India. I mentioned India as a whole ranks third in the startup ecosystem. Today, from a deep tech perspective, we rank sixth globally and very aggressively looking to change that. Today in India, we have over 3,600 deep tech startups, and our target is by 2030 to change that number to over 10,000. In 2024, almost 2 billion of funding was focused in deep tech startup across defense, quantum computing, semiconductors, space. The government of India has launched very well-funded missions in specific areas of deep tech. There's the Indian semiconductor mission, which is very focused on targeting India to become a big player in electronics manufacturing, in semiconductors. The National Quantum Mission has been launched with a budget of over 6,000 crores to invest in quantum computing startups and research. Recently, the India AI mission has been announced with a budget of over 10,000 crores to really build up and make India a world leader in the AI startup ecosystem and to promote development. Another really interesting trend we're seeing is large enterprises, corporates are now partnering with startup founders and institutes to grow deep tech. And finally, a tremendous support from institute incubators like IHFC itself in entrepreneurs growing their deep tech startups. Just stepping back a little bit and talking about a startup trajectory. If you look at any startup, it starts from a proof of science in terms of what they're doing. Then they focus on a proof of technology in terms of, how to build out a solution. Then that's what you convert into a proof of business where you're actually creating, a business model and plan. And then finally, a proof of scale, because once you have proven your business, proven the technology, you next have to scale it up. The thing that is different for deep tech is that it has a long gestation period when you are looking at the proof of science and proof of technology. Like I mentioned, there's a lot of unpredictability. And this is where a tremendous amount of investment is needed. The government is making an investment, large enterprises are making an investment, and slowly more and more VC funds are making an investment. So the early stage of the gestation period where there's a lot of risk, there's a lot of unpredictability, is what makes the deep tech innovation and startups very different from startups in any other sector. And there's some very key, challenges. It's understanding, the need and the market gap. It's finding the right problem to solve, because if you're looking to commercialize a solution, you have to build a solution to address a problem. And it's early on changing your mindset and understanding, Ashutosh mentioned this, what is a commercial application? So rather than building some really cool tech and then identifying an application, trying to keep that you're building a tech, keeping in mind what the commercial application is. It's a very different way of thinking. I've been working with a number of incubators across the IITs. And I'm showing here, a model that IIT Madras has built up, because I think it's very relevant. And they're doing a lot of work in terms of commercializing deep tech research. And all the founders there, I think it's very relevant to kind of dig into this in a little bit more detail and explore. There's this whole concept of lab to market, which is very relevant for a startup involved in research and deep tech. You start with an idea in the lab, right? And then you build a prototype about it, you do a proof of concept. But what we often forget to do is then incorporate something that we call customer discovery. which then goes into what is the application, who is actually going to use your product. Leverage your prototype, go to a few customers, and then do customer discovery. Is this working for them or not? And there's a big iteration involved here. That is where you make a decision on whether your prototype is ready to take to a minimum viable product or an MVP. So there's a lot of iteration at your prototype level where you have to engage with the customer, do a discovery. Is this the right solution before spending a lot of time and effort into building a MVP level product? And this is what we typically call, a pre-incubation space. Before even that you're ready to go to a number of incubators that are out there, do your customer discovery, do your iteration, revise your prototype before you look at it. Once you have all that input, that's when you are ready to then build an MVP or a minimum viable product. Now, at this stage, it's very important to then understand how do you build a business model. And what I mean by that is, can your product actually be built and delivered effectively? How long is it going to take to build? What is the cost to build it? And is it really viable to convert into a business? So very important to look at the times, to look at the costs. What are the resources that you are going to need to actually build it? You have to think of how you will actually take it to go to market. And I'll talk about this in a little bit later. But there's a whole iteration then process here. Is your business model viable for the market? Is the pricing right? Will the customers pay for this? So just like during the customer delivery discovery, before you go to an MVP, there's an iterative process where you decide go, no go, are you ready? Similarly, with an MVP, with a business model, there's an iterative process where you decide you go, no go back to the drawing board. And that is when you're ready to actually take it to the market, which is why this whole lab to market for a deep tech is actually a longer process than your typical startup. And that's when you actually leverage an incubator to help you grow, to help you scale, actually convert it into an established company. So this, I think, is a really interesting way of looking at the whole life cycle of a tech, and especially a deep tech startup. And again, I'll just remind folks, anytime you have questions, please put them in the chat. Happy to answer. So what does it actually mean to commercialize your research or your innovation? To me, that means actually taking your research findings and translating them, your technology, your invention, into a commercially viable product, service, or a process, and then making them available to the market at a price the market is willing to pay for. So again, this is a mantra you need to keep in mind as you're spending time on your research and innovation, that you ultimately have to translate it into something, product, service, or process that you can deliver to the market at a price they will be willing to pay for. I think that's where it's really important to bring an entrepreneurship mindset to your innovation. And what I mean by that, a lot of times I find innovators, researchers looking at cool technology, they spend many years bringing it out and then trying to find what is a problem that I can use my technology to solve. That's the wrong way of looking at it. Now, yes, a lot of times people want to work on technology, really cool technology, go into academia, keep working on it, which is great. But if your idea is that you want to take your product to market, build a business out of it, you have to start with an entrepreneurship mindset, which means find a problem that you want to solve and then find what is the right technology to solve it. It is a very 180 degrees versus how we are used to thinking about research and innovation. Start with a problem and then find the research and technology to solve it. And I think entrepreneurship mindset is now driving transformative change about how we think about technology, deep tech, and in your case, cobotics or robotics. What that means is, you've identified a customer problem. So now how do you use research and innovation to solve it? So for example, that could mean leveraging new technologies, like IoT or AI into the robotic system. So how do you make your research more innovative to solve a problem that is out there? It also means leveraging technology to develop very niche solutions. You may be developing very customized solutions for healthcare, for manufacturing, for agriculture, for defense. So oftentimes, technology can be used to develop very niche solutions that are solving a problem. And then finally, this technology and entrepreneurship mindset ultimately will help you create new markets. And what do I mean by that? For example, you could think of a new business model, how you are pricing your solution. It could be a subscription based, it could be a service based. And these are the kinds of changes that can disrupt your traditional industries or your market or create new markets. An example is like quick commerce. Everything was going well. You have the big baskets, you have the Swiggies, you have people delivering. And then suddenly quick commerce came around and has created a completely new market in existing new marketplace because it changed how we price it, how we deliver a solution. So that's an example of creating a new set of customers and creating a new market in an established market. And that is what I think technology and deep tech allows us to do. So I want to dig into a little bit now what I mean by an entrepreneurship market and what I mean by using an entrepreneurship mentality in your research. So that means finding the market need and opportunity. So we need to work with industry. So whatever area you are looking to do research in or already researching in, identify who is the relevant industry. Work with them to identify the problems they're searching for or trying to solve in their business. So for example, if you're in health tech, work with professionals in the health tech industry. Talk to companies that are in the health tech industry. Ask them what type of problems they're trying to solve, and then work with your research to solve those problems. If you do that, you are already going to have industry partners and stakeholders who want to work with you, who want to fund you because they know the solution that you are building is going to address a problem they cannot address themselves. So very important to work with them and identify what are the problems they are trying to solve rather than trying to figure out the problems yourself. Build your partners up front. They will also help you test along the way. And then I would strongly encourage you work with the technology transfer offices. IIT Delhi has one so that you're already thinking about, IP and some of the issues you have to think about upfront. When you're working with the industry and partners, please define the use cases. You've identified the problem. What is the use case? And by that, I mean, who is your customer? Who is the person actually going to be using your solution in the industry? Talk to them. Again, what are the problems they are trying to solve? An industry or a company may have a specific problem, but who in their company is actually going to use the solution to solve the problem? Very important to talk to them. The second really important thing is to understand what are the solutions that are already out there to solve a problem. I very often come across founders who are saying, we have a solution to a problem that nobody has. It's great. And there are rare, but there will be cases where somebody comes up with a solution to a problem nobody has ever, solved. But it's very rare. You have to think, why has somebody not solved this problem before? It's not always because they haven't thought of it or it's really difficult. It may be a lot of people have tried to solve it and they have not found an efficient way to solve it, a cost-effective way have solved it. So don't undermine the solutions that may have already been tried. Very important to know what are the solutions that have been tried or exist to the problem that you are trying to solve today. Talk to other founders that may have solved these problems. So once you have identified the market need and opportunity, once you have identified the use cases and your customer, Go back and build the prototype. I'll go back to here, right? You've talked to the customer. Now you're working on the prototype. Build a prototype. And while you're doing this, make sure you are understanding, is there IP that you need to protect? Talk to the TTO. Go back and iterate on it. I'll go back to this. You built your prototype. Go back to your industry partner. Go back to the customer that you spoke to who is actually going to use your product. Iterate, rebuild your prototype, refine it till it is actually addressing your problem. That's the cycle that comes here. Next is do your market validation. I can come back here, go to the MVP, build your minimum viable product. It's very, common and very easy to go into that mode. I have to build the best product out there. It's the 80-20 rule. Make sure your product is 70 to 80% out there. You don't have to make it perfect. What is the right minimum viable product that you have out there? Once you have that, that's when you need to now build out your business plan. You need to understand, can you now make a business out of this? Can you build your solution in a profitable way? Can you build it to scale? What does it cost? What is a customer planning to pay for it? That's when the business and financial model comes in. You have to think about pricing. You have to think about what the customer is willing to pay. You have to think about your margins. What is it going to cost you to build? How much can you sell it for? What are all the other costs? What are your people costs? What are your location costs? Everything else comes into your business and financial model. You need to spend time on this. A big part of this is now your team. What are the skill sets? What are your gaps? What are the people that you need in your team to actually now get this out into the market? How will you reach your customers? What is your plan? That's where GTM or go-to-market comes in. How do you actually build your go-to-market plan? Who are you going to leverage to reach out to your customers? Again, think back to who are your industry partners. Can you leverage them? Like, I'll give you an example. I was working with Maruti Suzuki, and a couple of the founders that worked with them, once they got on their kind of presentation that, hey, we have Maruti Suzuki as a customer, they were able to now reach out to all the other automobile customers because they said, wow, you have a partner in this. They have worked with you. You must be doing something right. We're willing to have a conversation with you and work with you. So working with an industry partner early on can open up immeasurable doors for you. So, very, very important. A few other things I want to point out to you. A lot of times when somebody is working at the university, researching, there's a thinking that, I'm going to continue working at the university. I'll spend part of my time continuing my research, part of the time, starting my startup. I think once you have decided to start your company, it is very important that 100% of your time is focused on building out your company. Investors want to see that somebody is 100% invested in starting the company, growing it out. Obviously, there'll be, if your research and your MVP is still being refined, you will have part of your team currently still working at the university. You may be working with professors, but your focus needs to be on the company. Oftentimes, people think that, I'm a techie, I know my research, I can't build a business, I need to bring somebody in as a CEO. Now, there'll be different points of view of this, and, it's a little gray, but it's not black and white. But typically, history has shown us that the best CEO of a company is someone who is involved in the original research. And why I say that is because this person is going to be much more invested in the success of a company than an external person that you bring in and a CEO. The other reason why it's important, because as you're going to market, you're going to get a lot of feedback. And if you are the person who understands the product, understands the technology, you will be able to have the right conversations with the customers and come back and make the adjustments in your solution versus somebody who's a CEO, who's purely business, who is essentially translating information for you. So something to think about. Also, make sure that you are leveraging your university resources in experimentation and refinement, domain experts, your labs. I've highlighted this alumni because this is an aspect which everybody tends to forget. Leverage your alumni. I keep telling founders to do this. They grossly underestimate the power of leveraging their alumni network. They can open up doors to domain experts, they can open up doors to customers, they can open up doors to networks, they can open up doors to funding. Leverage your alumni, leverage other founders that are part of the alumni network, learn from them. Do not underestimate the power of your alumni network. And I'll keep saying that. The other struggle that people typically have when they are moving from a university environment to, let's say, their startup environment is when to leave. You know, there's a risk of leaving too early or too late. Leaving too early when you haven't done all the work and you're not ready to go out into the market, or just staying in that comfort zone. I'll keep refining it, I'll keep adding these features, I'll keep building it out. And by that time, it's too late because somebody else has come and built the solution. So really important decision. And this is where mentors and advisors can guide you. What is the right time to actually cut the cord and go forward? And again, I will emphasize, make sure that you are working with your technology transfer office. Make sure you're understanding if it's IP, there are issues involved when, how you leverage your IP when you're working with a university, understand the terms, talk to somebody. Is it royalty based? Is it equity based? Is it something else based on licensing? Talk to past founders from your institute. They have worked with the TTO office. Understand what are the pros and cons. What are some of the challenges they have dealt with? Don't try and reinvent the wheel. Learn from people who have done this before, who have worked with the TTO office. What works, what doesn't work. And then, there's steps of incorporating the company, making sure you have the right mentors, advisors, finding who are the other industry partners. There are probably other incubators you can partner with. So keep all these in mind as you are, going through your journey. So I'm going to, again, just say, please, if you have any questions, please put them in chat. Feel free to stop me. I want to now switch gears a little bit to talk about the funding cycle of a startup. There are different stages of funding, right? If you look at a standard startup, you typically start with friends and family investing because, an outside investor wants to see what is your skin in the game. If you can't convince your friends and family to invest, why are you asking an insider to invest? So that's typically your first stage, friends and family. Your next stage is outside investment, where you'll go to an angel investor who will invest 20 lakhs, 25 lakhs, maybe 30 lakhs, that amount. Once you have an angel investor, your next stage is then when you go to a fund who will invest at a seed stage, maybe 1 crore, 3 crore, 4 crore, 5 crore, depending on the fund. And then you start going to Series A, Series B, and kind of beyond that. So that is your typical kind of funding cycle. Also remember, you have a lot of other sources of funds, especially at the early stage. There are lots of competitions which not only get you grants and funding, but also get you a lot of visibility. Don't underestimate the media coverage, visibility competitions will get you. There's funding that you'll get from incubators, like many of you probably have from IHFC. Also, don't underestimate government schemes, especially in deep tech. A lot of funding has now become available. Make sure you are aware of what is out there. Also, there are a lot of corporate incubators now that are out there in tech. Go and find out which are the corporate incubators and programs that you can leverage for grants, for funding, for domain expertise, for support. This is, again, a very less leveraged source of funding and expertise. Now, the other thing I will say, when you're looking at deep tech, you don't get kind of private funding till you're at a TRL level 8 and 9. So, right, quite late in the game. So early on, you are reliant on grants, which is why the government schemes become even more important. your institute or incubators. But again, this is the stage where you can get funds from corporate incubators or corporates themselves who are now becoming more and more open to co-development. But again, to convince a corporate, you have to show them that you are solving a problem for them. You cannot go to them, say, this is really cool tech, this is what it does. They will not listen to you. Talk to them, understand what are the problems they are trying to solve. Talk to 3 corporates in that industry. Say, this is an industry problem. This is what we're looking to solve. Work with us. Always, always start with the problem. Otherwise, you will never get their attention. Talking a little bit now about fundraising, right? Once you start looking outside, once you've gone to all the internal sources of funding, these competitions, incubators, they're very important questions a founder needs to answer. It is really, remember I talked about investor readiness versus investment readiness. You as a founder need to answer a very important question. Do I really need external funding? Because remember, the minute you go for funding, you are going to give up a percentage of your business, and somebody is going to come into your board who will have an opinion on how you run your business. A lot of times founders think, okay, my end goal is getting funding. I've succeeded. Wow, that's great. Don't think like that. It's very important for you to think, do I really need to raise funding? Can I work on grants? Can I work on bootstrap? Like one of the biggest startups out there, right, in the ag tech sector, they raised funding very late in the game. They made a decision. This is my business. I can get grants. I'll stay bootstrap. So again, very important question. Do I really need to raise funding? Can I leverage other sources? And along with that comes the question, do I know what I will use the funds for? So only go for funding if you need it, for specific development that you can't get, or you're scaling. Be very clear. Or you need to hire a team and you can't hire them without getting the additional funds. Be very clear. Do I need funding now? Another very important question that founders do not pay enough attention to, is this the right investor for me? Don't just go after somebody purely for funding. If you have a good team, if you have a good solution, if you can convince somebody, I know the problem I'm solving, and convince them I am the right person and I have the right team to execute this, you will have investors ready to invest in you. What is more important for you to understand is this the right investor? Beyond funding, what is the value the investor is going to get me? Is this investor going to bring me domain expertise? Is this investor going to bring me advisors? Is this investor going to connect me to customers? Is this investor going to help me grow? Very, very important. Look at the type of companies the investor has invested in. Talk to the portfolio company founders of that investor. Get their input. Your investor is not just somebody giving you money. Your investor is your partner who is going to help you grow to your next round of funding. Very, very important. The other question founders typically don't ask themselves, why will I fail? They always list out the reasons, this is why I will succeed. This is why you should invest in me. But make sure you understand what are the reasons I will fail. Okay, I understand there's a gap in my team, so I need to hire these expertise. I understand there's a gap in technology for helping me scale. I need to address it. Always ask yourself the question, why will I fail? Another thing a lot of investors will ask you, you're asking me for like, $1 million. What if I give you 500,000? Will you be able to still move ahead with that? So always have in the back of your mind, yes, you will have an ask, but have a number in the back of your mind. What is my minimum walkaway? What is the minimum amount of funding I really need to take me to the next level? Very important questions to keep in mind. Now, let's spend a little bit of time on what investors look for. First and foremost, an investor wants to see in the founding team, do you have the passion and drive? Are you a good storyteller? I tell people, practice this in front of people, in front of, a mirror. Always tell a comparing story. An investor wants to know, why are you in this? A lot of times, founders start companies because they're trying to solve problems they've seen, they face themselves. If you can't tell a compelling story, you've lost the battle right there. An investor wants to see that the team is passionate about the problem they're solving and they have the drive. Fundamental questions that you need to answer. What is the problem you are solving? Who are you solving the problem for? And why will they pay you to solve it? This is the most common set of three questions where investor conversations go south, because the founder cannot answer in a compelling way these three questions. Again, what is the problem you're solving? Who are you solving it for? And why will somebody pay you for this? There's a lot of emphasis that goes into the founder profile. And depending on the stage of investment, so if you're an investor investing at the seed stage, the founder becomes even more important because your risk is more. The solution is not as well tested, right? And for deep tech startups, for funds coming in even earlier, it's all about the founder at that stage, right? Because you don't have a solution that's out there in the marketplace, you haven't generated revenues. So very important. And what I mean by the founder profile, what is the founder vision? What is the knowledge? Do they understand the tech? Can they explain the tech to me? Do they understand how to scale the tech? Very important. What is their background? What is their experience? How many years have they spent building out their solutions? And it is very important for the investor to know that the founder is flexible, right? Because again, think of that investor is your partner. The investor is not just giving you money and saying, okay, go away, make me 10x. The investor is working with you. The investor is going to give you advice. A lot of times, a fund will invest in a startup and they pivot along the way because, they find out, okay, the business model is not right. The solution is not right. The customer is not right. So an investor wants to see that the founder is willing to listen and is flexible enough to take the input. Very important to be able to explain what is your unique selling proposition or your USP. You have to have a very clear story, especially in tech, especially in deep tech. Nobody wants to look at a me too. Be very clear about what your unique value proposition is. Also very important is scaling. An investor is investing at you at a particular stage, whether it's seed stage, whether it's Series A, but ultimately the investor is looking to make multiples on his or her return. So they want to make sure that you can explain how is your solution going to scale. How are you going to go from 10 customers to 100 customers to 1,000 customers? What is it that you are going to need to scale? Very important. And ultimately, it is going to come out to the numbers, right? The financials. What are your costs? What are you spending on? How are you going to generate revenues? How are you going to grow? Your financials need to be very, very strong. You need to be able to explain your numbers. A lot of times people will come up with these beautiful graphs, these beautiful spreadsheets, 10-year projections. If you're early stage, nobody is going to look at 10-year projections. They don't even make sense. Whatever financials you show, know them inside out. What are your unit economics? Things like that. Be ready to defend them. Your investor has to be convinced that you have the right team to execute. Yes, founders, but beyond the founders, what is your team? Can the team execute? I could go on and on about this, but I want to be cognizant of time. This is a great time, I will say again, for deep tech startups. The latest budget has unveiled $100 billion fund earmarked for deep tech research and development. There are policies that are being created to create innovation clusters, ecosystem. India is being extremely aggressive to make strategic partnerships globally with different countries. There is a tremendous amount of investment coming from the industry. There is a tremendous amount of focus in academic excellence. The growth in patents is growing exponentially. There are a number of deep tech VC funds focused on investing in deep tech. I mean, this is a great time. The ecosystem is growing, the ecosystem is there. There is government support, there is industry support, there's funding support. What do you need? And I'm going to end with this quote with John Chambers from Cisco, because I think it's really topical. You know, he says, what makes Silicon Valley work? It's an amazing, unique combination of great educational institutions, especially at Stanford, that are generating engineers, and a culture that is starting companies. I think the IITs are there. They're great institutions. The ecosystem is there. I think there's nothing to stop kind of founders doing this. And with that, you know, I'm going to stop. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much, ma'am. That was really wonderful. And
I'd love to see, hopefully there's some questions. I know I've been throwing a lot of information at you guys.
yeah, ma'am. Okay, so should I, that was a wonderful presentation. Why don't we open the floor to questions? Kindly raise your hand if you wish to ask a question.
Yeah, okay.
There's, I think, Udayan.
Yeah, hi, ma'am. Can
Hi.
you see me?
Yes, I can see you and hear you.
Okay, thank you for the great presentation. A lot of information since I'm going into this journey. So my question was related to the government grants that you were mentioning, right?
Yeah.
So do you feel that there are too many
Udayan, we can't hear you.
No, I can hear him clearly. Acha.
Okay, go ahead, Udayan.
Yeah, so my question was that, do you think that the compliances and the time of, getting the grants is quite a lot, and government should work on being aggressive in the evaluation process? Because a lot of time what happens is the entrepreneur's motivation goes down.
Yeah.
What's the government thinking?
Yes.
What would be there? So what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah. No, so completely agree with that. I think a lot is changing. I'll give you an example of space tech, right? The government had set up this organization called InSpace, primarily for the reason to be the face between the entrepreneur and the government on compliance, on regulatory, on dispersing funds. And you'll see the growth of space tech startups has grown exponentially. Again, you know, the quantum mission has been set up for the same reason. The AI mission has been set up for the same reason, to address, you know, specific problems like this. So I see a tremendous change in the speed with which now the government is ready to deploy. Yes, I won't say it's as fast as, let's say, going to a fund, but there are a number of policies coming in place, systems being set up, and they're bringing people in to help them disperse these funds. So it is absolutely changing with the intent. And I hear that a lot from entrepreneurs that, you know, yes, there are a lot of government funds. We don't want to do it because it's extremely frustrating, but it is changing, especially in deep tech. And the government is very motivated to kind of grow. The whole thing about, you know, Make Bharat, Atmanirbhar Bharat is driving this.
Thank you, ma'am, for the input.
Okay, great. There's a question also over here in the chat box. It says, I am currently planning on a startup in the field of smartphone design and manufacturing. I have a patent in smartphones and I would like to produce the product. I don't have much funds with me. How can I proceed for the funding to start my business? Will I be
Okay.
able to get complete funding from government?
See, the smartphone is a very, very difficult industry to get into. I mean, given that it's out there, it's a very, very busy industry. Unless you have something that is like fundamentally different, fundamentally adding value, it is going to be a very tough market with brain. So I'll be kind of very blunt and honest. I think what you should do is connect with somebody who is in this industry. Talk to somebody who's in the fast phone industry and get their input in it. But I will be honest, this is a very, very tough industry to come in. I've spoken to a couple of entrepreneurs who are trying to get into smartphones, but it is tough. But nevertheless, please do have a conversation with somebody who is actually in this industry, who can guide you, who can probably point you into a specific direction in that. So that would be my immediate response on that.
Okay, ma'am. Do we have anybody else who has a question? We are really short of time, so maybe one or two question at the max, or you can put it in the chat box. I can read it out, or you can raise your hand.
And I'm also happy, in the interest of time, if you want to share some questions later, Pia. So more than happy to also respond after the fact.
Okay, wonderful, ma'am. Can you also share your email ID on the chat box so maybe people can note that down and I will announce it so people will be able to email to you and ask you their queries if they're too shy
I'll
to
do
do it
that right now.
right now. In the meanwhile, anybody has a question, please raise your hand.
So I've just posted it.
Okay, ma'am's email ID, you can note it's also in the chat box. It's anju@ivycapventures.com. I repeat, anju@ivycapventures.com. You can access it in the chat box. And if there are no other questions as of now, I think, ma'am, they'll be able to email to you with their queries.
Absolutely. Yeah, no problem at all.
It's a lot of information to absorb right now. I know there are a few startups of us who have joined it, who are probably already scratching their head thinking,
no, I can understand.
whether we are in the right direction or not. So as they soak in all the information that you've given, which is extremely valuable, I'm sure they'll have queries for later on.
No, absolutely.
Okay, I'm sorry. Quick question. Ma'am, what about drinking water company business? Does government help for funding?
So I'll tell you this, there's a lot of emphasis on, sustainability. And a lot of companies are applying their CSR in water-related solutions. So I think there is a lot of interest. I think there will definitely be funds available when you talk about drinking water companies. In fact, CSR funding is a lot in this area. So I think depending on what your solution is, don't only look at government help. A lot of these companies are deploying their CSR funding through incubators. So definitely explore that.
Okay, great. I think, unfortunately, that's all the time we have today evening. That was really, really interesting. And I thank you once again, ma'am, for honoring us and gracing us with your presence for the 50th Cobotalks. And in fact, I would like to have Ashutosh now to present you with a small gift of appreciation from our side. Guys, could we just have the voucher to be presented, please?
And thank you so much for having me. Really appreciate that, especially at this 50th Cobotalks event.
No, I think thank you so much, Dr. Anju, for being there for this 50th anniversary of our Cobotalks. And this is a gift voucher, of 150 euros that you can utilize on Springer to get into some of the research things which are happening across the globe. So this is a useful one that way. And I would like to thank you from the bottom of my heart for putting together such a wonderful presentation. And we were discussing here at IHFC that I think there was something to pick up for almost everyone in our ecosystem. So whether it is a ready program student, or if it is a incubated startup, recently incubated startup, or a mature startup, so to say, I think for almost everyone, there was something to pick up. So thank you so much again for being there and sharing this knowledge with us.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you everyone for joining for this
Thanks,
wonderful
everyone.
session. And we look forward to seeing you next Cobotalks. All
Thanks
right.
so much.
Bye-bye.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.